All right, well, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out on this dreary day. We all really appreciate it. So my name is Jared Green. I am the Wildlife Refuge Specialist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at the Eastern Massachusetts National Wildlife Refuge Complex. And on behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, I'd like to welcome you all to the designation of the Lowell Urban Wildlife Refuge Partnership. And so this partnership is one of only 29 urban wildlife refuge partnerships across the entire United States. So the City of Lowell, its residents, and our partners gathered here today are in rare and elite company. Part of the impetus behind the designation of this partnership was the awarding of a 5-star Urban Waters and Restoration Program grant to the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. The funds from this grant, which come from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, FedEx, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Wildlife Refuge System, will be used to increase environmental education efforts with Lowell students, to provide greater conservation stewardship volunteer opportunities for Lowell residents, including the youth that we have gathered here with us today, for restoration and revitalization of the riparian habitats within the city, including 1,000 acres of riverbank here along the Concord River and 3 acres of habitat restoration here in the Concord River Greenway. And finally, to continue a long-term monitoring project of anadromous river herring that migrate from the Atlantic Ocean up the Merrimack River and then finally up the Concord River through the Centennial Island Fish Ladder, which is located behind me. But at the heart of this partnership designation is the people. The people, the hardworking people that make up the organizations that have partnered together to make all of this possible and to improve the lives of Lowell residents. Partnerships that range from federal, state, local, and nonprofit. Our federal partners include Congresswoman Niki Tsongas, who has been a strong supporter of the National Wildlife Refuges within her district, and who has been a champion for the people of Lowell, their businesses, and their organizations like the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Northeast Regional Office, who are represented here today by Deputy Regional Director Deborah Rocque, Deputy Regional Chief of Refuges Sharon Marino, and Regional Refuges Supervisor Graham Taylor, who have all provided direction and support as we expand our efforts into urban communities. Mike Bailey and his staff at the Central New England Fisheries, Wildlife, and Conservation Office. Yep. Who have been monitoring river herring in Lowell for several years and have always engaged Lowell residents in their efforts. These staff and many volunteers at the Eastern Massachusetts National Wildlife Refuge Complex, who have expanded their environmental education efforts to new and exciting environments and communities within Lowell. At the local level, Lowell Mayor William Samaras and the Lowell City Council, for their efforts always supporting the work of the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust and opening their arms to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as we enter the city of Lowell. The Lowell Public Schools, who have made environmental education and conservation stewardship one of the top priorities for their students, and who are represented here today by Superintendent Jeannine Durkin, from the STEM Academy, Principal Jason McCraven and teacher Kirian Driscoll, from Merklin Elementary, teachers Barbara Smith and Lindsay Serpy, And from Riley Elementary, teachers Katie Page and Allison Bilodeau. And a special thank you to Allison and Barbara, as they were the ones that first welcomed the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to the City of Lowell over 5 years ago with our new and exciting Blanding's Turtle Head Starting programs and our urban education program. From the nonprofit sector, our friends from Massachusetts Audubon's Drumlin Farm Wildlife Sanctuary. Today we have the education team of Jennifer Feller and Sally Farrow, who have both worked tirelessly to engage Lowell youth in environmental education and conservation stewardship opportunities both within the city and beyond. And finally, our lead partner, the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. The trust was established in 1990, and they have focused on land protection, stewardship, and environmental education efforts within the city. In addition to their wonderful board of directors, some of whom are here today, at the heart of the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is Executive Director Jane Calvin. Jane has been with the trust since 1995, and since that time she has embedded the trust into the Lowell community through hard work and dedication and integrating the Lowell residents into everything that the trust does. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jane. Thank you. All right. Yep, whatever's easiest for you.
Okay. It's so wonderful to see the big crowd here today. It really makes my heart sing. We have a crew of from the youth that have been working with us for several years, several board members, all of the federal and state partners that are here, and so many of our volunteers. I'm very honored and humbled, and when I wrote this grant, I never imagined this would happen. So it's really, really wonderful. I want to let you know a little bit about where you are right now. You are standing on the Concord River Greenway. The trust has been working with the City of Lowell on developing the Concord River Greenway since before 2000. And next week, on Wednesday night at the ConsCom, is the final meeting to move forward with the next two sections. So we're really excited about that. That'll be 1.75 miles, and we're already working on the next section that'll come underneath the Lowell Connector. And then a little bit more about the river section that you're at here. This is Wamasett Falls. This is a very historic dam. To the left, and then there's an island right here. Jared already pointed out that the cement ladder there, that's a Daniil fish ladder. To the left of that is the canal. That's the oldest canal, water canal in the city on the left. And to the right is how the river is flowing. I always get a kick standing on Centennial Island trying to give people the orientation as to where they are, where the Merrimack River is, how the fish are flowing, how it really works, because you get a lot of these aha moments where people kind of get everything topsy-turvy. Because the fish are coming this way and the water's going that way. If you go this way on the river, this way is south. The river ends up in Concord, and then it divides to the Sudbury and the Concord, Sudbury and the Assabet. Or the Sudbury and the Assabet join to form the Concord, and then you have the Suwasco watershed. Many of you already know that, but I feel, as an educator, I think I need to give you the background about where you are. So as Jared so aptly said, we really are all about embedding the residents of Lowell into the work that we're doing. There's a lot of citizen science work that we're doing here. I love all the volunteers. So many of you are here today. Many of you have volunteered with us, including the youth that are here with us. Would you all raise your hands? Even if you haven't volunteered for Sharon, you are a volunteer. And our education programs go wide and deep. We're not just about having folks come out and do fish monitoring and do citizen science, we do have a very strong partnership with Mass Audubon that's been going since 2004. And that is, we are now have grown that program to where we're in 8 schools every day after school, and through this grant, we hope to expand it into the schools that the Fish and Wildlife Service are also working on during the day, to engage them in the fish monitoring that we're doing at Centennial Island right here. So we're really, really excited about that. I would like to once again give the youth that are here, including the youth from the past, that are also here. Where's Edwin and Charlie? But you guys all raise your hands and jump up and down. Lily, Amina, Skyla, Rose, Edwin, Charlie. You'll hear from Charlie in a bit, but they deserve a lot of credit, and we're so excited. We now have former students that are on our board. I was so excited to see Edwin today and realize that he's studying environmental engineering. These are all the career things that we work towards in the program. So once again, I can't thank all of our partners at the Fish and Wildlife Service enough. This is a tremendous opportunity. This is only the beginning of a 2-year project, and Jared and I have dreams of expanding it further. So we're really excited to be able to partner with you on this project. And Niki, we can't thank you enough. Your 10 years of leadership in the district have been phenomenal, and the impact that you have had on this region's rivers. I can't think of anyone else in Congress who has been such a strong advocate for our rivers and the impact that you'll have. And I can't wait to see the Nashua designated as a wild and scenic. And we're so happy to be able to help fish move from Lowell into the Suwasco section that's wild and scenic. But we're really indebted to everything that you've done far beyond the rivers. Thank you very much. Jared, I'm going to pass the mic back to you. I know I forgot some stuff, but
All right. So unfortunately, the mayor was not able to join us today. So we are going to skip ahead a bit in the program. But the mayor and, as I said, the town council are very supportive of everything that we've done. So just thank you again to them for all their support. So now we're going to turn it over to the Deputy Regional Director of the Northeast Region of the Fish and Wildlife Service. So the reason we're able to do all this work is because of support from above. And so Deborah Rocque, our Deputy Regional Director, is at the forefront of that. So, Deb?
Thank you. I know it's impolite to correct somebody in public, but Jared, I'm going to correct you. The reason we're able to do this kind of work is because of the work of people like you and the staff at the Eastern Complex, the National Wildlife Refuge, and the work of all the others. And so it is an absolute honor for me to be here today and celebrate this and to get to see all the work that our folks in the field do and how they partner with such a wide array of groups. And Sharon's worked on this so long. I started working on this before I even came to the region, and so the urban partnership is really very dear to me. And I really want to thank you, Jean, and the work of the trust and work of all the partners, the staff at the Eastern Mass Refuge Complex and at our Central New England Fish and Wildlife Conservation Office up in Nashua. And before I go to my remarks, I really want to take some time and recognize Congresswoman Niki Tsongas. You have provided unwavering support for conservation work that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does with our partners in Massachusetts and across the country, and we really appreciate all of that. You've been a champion for wildlife conservation issues on Capitol Hill as the ranking member of the Federal Land Subcommittee on the House of Natural Resources Committee, and you're also a strong advocate for the designation of the Nashua River as wild and scenic river, and you've held a number of river days. We have pictures of you in a canoe all over the place at the regional office. So I want to thank you. And on behalf of everybody, we just want to tell you how much we're going to miss your leadership in Congress and in here in Massachusetts. And I really hope that you get to spend more time outside and you get to paddle that canoe wherever you would like to go. So, as Jared said, this Lowell joins a kind of an austere group of cities across the country. So other urban partnerships are in Baltimore, in Chicago, in Houston. And so you've got like kind of the small city of Lowell, although I didn't know it was the fourth largest city in Massachusetts, I learned something, joining these really large urban areas and being designated as an urban wildlife partnership. And the thing that everybody here knows is like, these aren't somebody coming and saying you should do this. This all comes from the ground and the support and the grassroots that everybody in the community cares so much about. And for me, it's just foundational to what we need to do in this country is we need to get people outside. And we need to get our youth, our young people to connect outside so you can go and be fish passage engineers or whatever it is. But you can go and you can embark on careers that maybe you didn't know of because you were growing up in the city, and you're connecting your community to nature and you're connecting yourselves to nature. And it's so near and dear to me. So Jared already said that we're going to revitalize the banks of the river, and we've talked about the fish ladder. But again, like all of this is just such a great way for everybody to spend some time outside and connect with nature. And as I said, we're a country that's now 80% urbanized, and we're losing that connection to nature. And we really need to just foster that stewardship. And you all know this, and so I really am effectively preaching to the choir, but it's just so important. As somebody working for a federal agency, we often find that it's kind of hard to turn that ship or that canoe and to get us to think in new and different ways and how we can have an impact on conservation. We have kind of a long-held belief that it's really getting out there and doing management and working with the wildlife and working on the land. But we're really beginning to realize that that's important, but working with all of you is what's most important if we're going to have a lasting effect. So I think with that, Jared, I am going to turn it over to you and let us get on with things. And I just really want to say, I am so happy to be here, and I'm so proud to see the work that you, Jared, and all the Fish and Wildlife staff has done, and the partnership that has developed out of this. This is really, really awesome, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
All right, so we are going to keep things moving, and our next speaker is Congresswoman Niki Tsongas.
Well, good afternoon. Glad the weather is cooperating, and great to be with all of you as we celebrate the urban partnership. I have to say, well before I was a member of Congress, I remember when the Lowell Conservation was created. And from afar, I think I got one of their earlier mailings, and I remember thinking how important it was to this city to have a group that was focused on the environment and protecting open space and connecting our citizens with the beauty that really we are uniquely built around. As I've served in Congress and made my way, I guess historically I've made my way across this district, but one of the things have often been reminded of is sort of the changing nature of the Concord River. And as you make your way back to Concord and Bill Rocque, and I think we even get into, that's the Assabet and Hudson, how differently our rivers are viewed depending upon the community that we're in. But here in Lowell, especially, the Concord River was much neglected. So much of our focus is on the Merrimack River. So it's wonderful to see the investment made in this river because of its great history. It's also more intimate. It's a more intimate connection with our waterways. I did have our River Day to celebrate the rivers of this district, primarily because it was the thing that unites us. We are so disparate, 37 communities, so different in so many ways. But the rivers, the Assabet and the Sudbury, the tentacles of those go into parts of the district. They come together in Concord, then make their way here into the Merrimack. As this district has changed a bit, invariably, the Merrimack River connects with the Nashua River, whatever it may be. So wherever you look, the rivers really are the thing that unite us, and it's been fun to celebrate that. But I also think I saw my first snowy egret, or whatever it was called, here in Lowell as we made our way out onto the Concord. So I saw my first great blue heron. I say there's reasons to live to be 72. I saw my first eagle flying over the Merrimack maybe a couple of years ago. So you have to live a long time. You shouldn't have to live so long, frankly. You shouldn't have to live so long to see these remarkable birds and other creatures. So it's wonderful to have a program that really works to connect the citizens of Lowell with the beauty that is right in their midst, and to see young people benefiting from it and going on and seeking careers in fields that help to protect our natural landscape, invest in conservation. I've been fortunate to be on the Natural Resources Committee. I was the ranking member, the lead Democrat on the Federal Land Subcommittee for a good while. And, you know, my appreciation of all of this is not necessarily shared across this country. It's a fight that we have to have over and over and over again. I made a decision to leave Washington, but one thing I will regret is sort of the flipping the coin and having more opportunity to be more proactive around the kinds of investments that we make in protecting that which makes us unique culturally and naturally as well. So great to see this, great to see the great work of the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, to see the partnership with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and to celebrate those brave little herring that never give up. And to hope someday they have a bright future on the other side of the dam in Billerica. So great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And so that's probably the coolest part of this whole project, is that the fish monitoring that Mike Bailey and Jane Calvin and all of the wonderful volunteers have been doing, that data is going to be used to hopefully get a fish ladder installed on the last remaining dam that is further upstream on the river. And when that happens, the fish that are passing through right here are going to be able to make their way to the Great Meadows and the Assabet River National Wildlife Refuges. So it's a really great connection for these kids, that even though it takes them 40 minutes to get to our refuges by the bus, we're still all connected here by the watershed. So I believe the mayor is here. So if Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras wouldn't mind coming up and saying a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Following the Congresswoman, I didn't want to do that. Niki, actually, I just want to thank you for all the work that you've done, because without your help, this wouldn't be possible. There's no question about that. But, you know, I was looking at the material that was given to me about Lowell being one of 29 cities in the country designated as a wildlife service place, a place where there's trees, there's water, there's fish. Where am I going with this? When you think of a city, when you think of a gateway city, you think of a real urban situation. But Lowell, this is part of Lowell's uniqueness. Lowell is a city with everything. But when I was looking at what this grant offers, what does it offer? It offers conservation. It offers, activities for our citizens, but it also offers programs for our youth. And there's one thing I know: if we're going to have a future, you have to have conservation. You have to save what we have, and you have to make our youth aware of what the issues are. If this is going to continue, programs for the youth are what we must do and what we have to do. There's no question about that. But I was thinking as I was driving in from Boston, I'm sorry I'm late, but there is no fast way out of Boston. There's no question about that. But I was thinking of Dr. Patrick Morgan, the father of the national park. The one thing he wanted to see this. He would be so excited to be here, to be part of a program like this. The one thing that I remember him working on, he said he couldn't wait till the Merrimack River was cleaned up and the fish ladders were rebuilt, and that the salmon would now return to the Merrimack River. He saw it happen in his lifetime. I mean, this is something that many people never expected to see. But yes, Pat Morgan was the father of the national park, but he was a dreamer. Yes, he was a dreamer, but he knew and understood what the future needed. He worked with Paul Tsongas. They created the national park, but they created more than a national park. They created a situation that would allow us to, down the road, be able to do things like this, be involved in programs like this, but be truly active. And think about it, one of 29 cities in the country. If you would talk to me, say, 30, 40 years ago and said, this is where Lowell would be, I'd say, well, it's a nice dream, but it's not going to happen. But what we have today, because of work with Jane Calvin and the group, the conservation group, you've made it happen. You've made believers out of a lot of people, and we're doing the right thing. And I want to repeat myself in a sense of going back. Conservation is so important for our future, and programs for our children is what we have to do to ensure that we have a future. But what you did today is you've helped that future become a reality. Thank you very much.
So as the mayor just said, the future is the children, and that starts with our schools. And the Lowell schools have been absolutely tremendous to work with. I've worked with a lot of schools. We have 30 schools right now that are involved in our Blandings Turtle Head Starting program. And by far, the Lowell schools are the most fun to work with. The students are just so engaged with all the wonderful things that we're able to show them. And they're also incredibly well behaved. So the teachers here really deserve a lot of credit. And I can't say that enough. Just the wonderful group of teachers that we have here today. The things they do are incredible. The students, when they're coming to these national wildlife refuges, are seeing things for the very first time often, things that can be scary to these students. And these teachers are so supportive in building up their students' confidence and getting them excited about this stuff. So just thank you again to all the teachers that are here today. We couldn't do any of this without you. Along that lines, the superintendent of the Lowell Public Schools, Jeannine Durkin, is going to come up and say a few words.
I'd like to echo that our students are amazing, and this partnership is amazing for our students. I believe that as educators, it's our moral obligation to foster that inherent interest that children have with dirt and water and, you know, all of that. And it's really powerful when you see it in action in our schools. So we are eternally grateful for the partnerships over the years, and we're really excited about the expansion opportunities that come from this grant that has been awarded to the wonderful City of Lowell. We have one planet. We need to nurture that planet. We need to nurture our children to understand the value of that. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for continuing the partnership with our students. Thank you.
And since the superintendent is here, all the teachers that are here today deserve raises. So. And so we're going to wrap up our speaking program today with the most important component of this entire project, and that is the youth that are gathered here today. So these are the people that have been making a difference here in the Concord River Greenway before we've even been here. These are Jane Calvin's workforce. They're the ones that put in the hard work, that get their hands dirty, and they're the ones that are making this happen on the ground, and they're the ones that are going to be making this happen in the future. And so today we have 7 current or former students of Lowell High School, all of whom were or currently are actively engaged in the reform of this greenway. We have Edwin Chamba and Sarah Silva, who are Lowell High School graduates and founding members of the TREES, which is the Teens for Representing Environmental Excellency and Stewardship program. Also present are current TREES members and Lowell High School students Amina Bangura, Lily Chun, Skyla Lombard, and Rose Prout. And so I invite everyone to check out our display right here, which showcases some of the excellent work that these students have been engaged in. And finally, we have our last speaker, Charlie Chia. Charlie was born and raised in Lowell, gaining exposure to conservation stewardship during high school as a member of the River Ambassador Program and Spindle City Corps. He has turned those stewardship experiences into a career and is now in his 9th year as a seasonal ranger at the Lowell National Historical Park. Please welcome Charlie to the podium. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Jared for having me out here and Sally. I was born and raised here in Lowell. It was 10 years ago coming back here. And it brings back a lot of memories because it was with Sally. And we did some water testing out here, but we did a lot of cleanup here. This place was kind of messy, not very attractive. And there was a lot of camps, a lot of sharps, not too pretty. But so being born and raised here in Lowell as a teenager, who'd want to do this? There's a lot more fun things I could be doing, right? And yeah, so certainly Sally, special thanks to Sally for impacting my life because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. I remember when she brought in an owl, a skunk, and all these little critters into a conference room at the Boot Cotton Mills. And yeah, that hit me like, oh, I want to do this. This is cool. And she definitely made an impact on my life, and I definitely want to just say made me change. I want to impact the next generation like she is doing. And glad to be here today. I'm not sure what else to say, but yeah, special thanks to Sally and Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. So, thank you, Jared.
Yeah, thanks again. So that concludes the speaking portion of our program. Thank you again for everyone that came out today. It's great to have this support and know that everyone here is behind everything that we're doing. So again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.